Kafka was the first character every single Honkai Star Rail player got to use at the very beginning of the game. Today, we're gonna be straying away from the imaginary fathers so we can talk about her. She is the character that single-handedly enabled damage over time teams, or DOT for short, which is personally my favorite playstyle. I'm a menace to society. I would rather watch my enemies struggle and suffer as they perish by just infinite stacks of DOTs or just getting debuffed out of existence rather than bursting them down. Maybe I'm a bit sadistic. I don't know. This is the reason though why I personally am a Nihility main, because of all these individuals being so much fun to play. On top of that, her whole design is just oozing with so much flavor design and just perfect little details that wrap up her character to be so freaking wonderful. Not to mention the fact that she perhaps is one of the most influential characters in the entire storyline. As always, we have our three categories in gameplay, flavor, and impact, with flavor being the biggest factor for my personal opinion and the most influenced by my own bias. Now, if you want to learn more about these categories, I highly encourage you to go check out my video on the best designed character, where I explain in depth and provide specific examples for every category. But to give you a short breakdown on them, gameplay refers to anything related to their in-game kit. How powerful it is, what synergies it has, just anything related to when you're in combat. Flavor, in contrast, is anything that isn't based on gameplay. So this would be more so the animations that they do, their voice lines, text messages, anything that just gives life to the character itself. Finally, we have impact, which essentially tells of their story at present and the effect that these people have had in other characters. This isn't a lore video, so I won't go too in depth into their entire story, but it definitely helps in giving the character and the world itself much more life. Now, with all that being cleared up, let's see why Kafka is perfectly designed. I feel like it would be an absolute sin if we didn't start off with how relevant she is to both the story and the game. After all, our literal first impression of everything hinged on her and Silverwolf. The opening cutscene is just a perfect bait and switch, because it feels like it's establishing her as the villain. She's having the time of her life, playing the air violin, in the middle of all this chaos, all this destruction, all this mayhem that the Antimatter Legion is causing. But then it is revealed that this conflict that is going on of her to space station and the Antimatter Legion has nothing to do with her. As a matter of fact, she's arrived late, 2 hours late. But she still needs to be at her to space station in order to activate our main character. And it just leaves you perplexed, because you know you're not on the side of the good guys, but you know you're not on the side of the bad guys. You're not entirely sure where they might lead on to, but at least it feels that they're not a good party. After all, Kafka and Silverwolf's designs are shown as them being sneaky, infiltrating, negative traits that are given to characters. You can never know for sure what their goals are, but the fact that neither Kafka nor Silverwolf were obtainable characters at the time of release, where all the new players started the game, just made it feel even more ominous and mysterious. And it perfectly encapsulates what the Stellaron Hunters are. The mystery then remains for a very long period of time, to a point that you could even forget about the characters. Because after you finish all of her to space station, you move to Jarilo 6, a place where you don't hear at all any mention of the Stellaron Hunters of Kafka. You know that they exist as a threat because we've seen them before, but we haven't interacted with them until you are forced to travel to the Shanzhou Laofu due to the Stellaron threat that Kafka warns us about. However, we don't believe her, and we think that the Stellaron Hunters are the ones to blame for the crisis that's happening on the Laofu. And legitimately, the story in the Laofu starts with us trying to hunt down where Kafka is. We know that they have Blade captured, but nobody knows where Kafka is, and it is our job to go find her. And it is only after we have apprehended Kafka and captured her that we learn that she was in fact not lying, that she was really innocent. And that leads me to like the next point that I want to talk about. During Kafka's interrogation, this is the first time that Kafka's model changes. She's no longer wearing makeup, she doesn't have her sunglasses, and she doesn't have her coat either. A lot of these spider-like visuals are completely stripped away from her. And while we will touch more on those, the fact that these designs were removed from her humanizes her. It makes it seem like you're actually talking to a person. And it is also because of how her eyes change. They're no longer this very foggy shade, but you actually see pupils, you actually see details. And to a certain extent, it can definitely make that scene more empathetic when you're actually talking to Kafka, because you're meant to have a closer moment with her. And honestly, now that I look at it, that probably was within Elio's script. Like when I'm like seeing it further, I'm just like, was that actually like really intentional? Because yeah, like this is the only moment when we see Kafka with specifically those types of eyes. And again, we really made a big mistake incarcerating her, because she genuinely had nothing to do with anything. They do manage to escape because Blade helps break her out, but she still got unjustly arrested, and it was her fault. But that does bring the next thing that I wanted to add into Kafka's design, and it's the fact that out of all the Stellaron hunters, she is the one that has the highest bounty, and it would make sense since she's also the more story relevant. Surprisingly, Silverwolf has the lowest bounty at 5.1 billion credits. And I'm surprised mostly because I feel like she has like a lot of sensitive information, and as a hacker, I feel like there should be a lot of digital crimes that she has made. Although, as a good hacker, maybe there's a lot of crimes that she has committed that we don't know about. So I'm hoping that that bounty increases, solely because I feel like she deserves more time. Blade, on the other hand, has 8.1 billion credits as a bounty, which, considering he's a war criminal, I can definitely understand that. But last but not least is Kafka, whose bounty literally is 10.899 billion credits. And you have to admire the fact that they went into such little detail to go that specifically into those numbers. Like in my mind, I'm like, couldn't you just afford the 11 billion? Like, why so specific with those numbers? Maybe they have significance. I don't know. I didn't really went to check. So now I'm going to be curious about that. But it is generally no surprise that she has the highest total bounty on her head, because her whole character stories in her character information are all bounties placed on her from different factions. There's a bounty from the IPC, from the Shanso Laofu that was revoked, from Babylon of Petergis 5, her literal home planet, and even one from Elio when he wanted to recruit her. Her literal boss put out a bounty so that he could be able to recruit her, because in that exact bounty there were literal one by one details of what the bounty hunter had to do. Like literally reading it, it says, oh, go to Petergis 5, locate this building at the specific coordinates, go in, there's an untouched canned drink, pick it up and keep it. Then wait until 11:12 on a Wednesday, then put this can at the entrance of the building. Kafka will appear 2 minutes later, and there's a chance that she will investigate that can. Then take this ball, throw it at her feet, and then I will be able to talk with her. However, in the chance that Kafka does not care about the can, you're already dead. Like, he legitimately says, you will die, but death will come for everyone. It's like, oh well, your death just happened to be much sooner than expected. But jokes aside though, this genuinely shows how much respect Elio has for Kafka, and also just the extent of the powers that Elio has. We do not know much about him, but we know that he's very mysterious, and the fact that he can predict the future that accurately is very scary. But we've just been going through major points in this story, right? We haven't touched onto her very unique and very cool companion mission just yet. Kafka's companion mission is quite interesting in my personal opinion. It essentially revolves around us having to help her, protecting her, while she's able to heal Blade and make sure that he's gonna be well and safe. And during that moment, we are also playing a game of one truth and one lie. A game where you say one truth and one lie. Why did I even write that on this script? You know what, let's just feel silly, moving on. Throughout the quest, you can uncover some nice little details. Not only about like just the in-game world as a whole, but also about Kafka herself. And there's like a lot of neat implications, by the way. I am gonna link down below in the description a link to the Honkai Star Rail wiki, which there you will be able to read which ones are the truths and which ones are the lies for those that I'm not gonna be covering in this video. But just having cleared that up, I genuinely adore the fact that after reading that, I was able to clarify a few things in my mind. Like the first one is that I was lied to by the internet because people told me that we were like a quarter of a child of Kafka's, a quarter Blades, a quarter Sam's, and a quarter Silverwolf's. That's a lie. Kafka was never mother. So, yeah, there you go that. We were actually given to Kafka by Elio. Elio was like, here, this is the one that will hold the Stellaron. So that's interesting. And he also did say that we are destined to change each other. That the main character and Kafka are interlinked, essentially. The second thing that I learned is that Kafka was never a Knight of Beauty. Another thing that I was lied to. Or maybe I just misinterpreted. That could also be the case. And the truth is that she was a literal devil hunter. Devil hunters exist in Honkai Star Rail. And you can literally see this in her character story 1. Like one of the first things you unlock in Kafka immediately tells you that in Patrides 5, there literally is a, like, they're just called devil hunters. I'm just legitimately shocked, honestly. And speaking of devil hunters, the reason why they're important is because these are the residents of this planet. But in particular, these residents lack the ability to sense fear. This also explains why Kafka is able to undergo so many dangerous and intense moments in her life without really batting an eye. Heck, she even learns that the IPC has a bounty on her, and she just doesn't care. She's like, oh really? I take it as a compliment. I'm like, excuse me? The richest organization in the world, legitimately the IPC, we've seen them inherit a space station, the Shenzhou Laofu, Gerillo 6, and now Penacony, and they've been menaces to society. They have a lot of power. And you just tell me, oh yeah, no, I'm just very happy to have gotten a bounty from them. I find it as an honor. Excuse me? Which does bring me to the next point of a little bit of fear. Because according to Kafka, when people don't feel fear and are dominated by desire, they become devils. And yeah, I don't know, I'm just very concerned because Kafka literally has zero fear. And this is also the reason why he actually joined Elio and the Stellaron Hunters. Because she wants to change that. And she wants to be able to learn what fear is. And to a certain extent, I assume that it means that she wants to value life. The last thing that I wish to add upon her companion mission is at the very end of it all. You can ask Kafka if destiny is predetermined, to which her true answer is that it is not. Even though she follows Elio and his script, she truly believes that destiny is what one makes of it. And this can honestly be further proven by Kafka's quest itself. You're able to refuse helping Kafka if you wanted. After several attempts of you saying, no, I don't want to help Kafka, you get the achievement True Free Will. And that immediately ends the mission. You no longer have Kafka's companion mission. It's just Hoyover. And even then, should you accept the quest, should you help out Kafka, there are still many points in time where you're able to temper fate. There's a moment where they mention that fighting is inevitable, but then you distract the Cloud Knight and you lock away the denizens of abundance, and you avoid the fight by being smart, and you change the future that Kafka told you. It shows you that you have the power to change these fated actions. And in my opinion, that just makes her companion quest so perfect for the kind of character that she is. And wow, that was a lot. That was a lot more than I expected. I love how in the beginning I literally said, oh, I'm not gonna cover too much of the lore, I'm not gonna go in depth, but here we are literally 16 minutes into this video, still rambling on about it, and Jesus Christ. I do have to say though, it's been a lot of fun to include all these little details, just make her character shine and make her feel unique in her own way. But before we move on to the next segment of the video, I do want to encourage you all to subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying this sort of content and you wish to see more. This is the best way to keep yourself posted. It's free, it only takes a second, and if at any point you feel like my quality of videos is dropping or you just don't feel like I'm the type of content creator for you, you can always unsubscribe. Everything has been appreciated and I genuinely adore this amazing community that we're currently in. So yeah, I just want to take this quick moment to say thank you to each and every single one of you. Moving on with the video, the next topic that I want to cover is regarding Kafka and all of the musical references that are accompanied with him. And in my opinion, one of the most notable things is definitely her idol animation where you see her playing the air violin, but also her Eidolons. In order, her Eidolons go as da capo, which means from the beginning, fortissimo, which means very loud, capriccio, which is funny or humorous or lively, as far as I'm correct. I will admit, quick disclaimer, I'm not really musically savvy, so if I say these wrong, please excuse me. Doloroso, which means painful, sorrowful tones. Recitativo, which is essentially like reciting. It's kind of trying to imitate normal speech as you're singing. Leggerio, which is meant to be lighter, softer, more gentle tones, as far as I'm aware. And finally, even though I know we have gone over all 6 Eidolons, we have Fermata. Yeah, her own Lycon is also apparently related to music, I learned, which is to hold a tone for long. Or not a tone, a note, my bad. I am reading bad my script. But yeah, legitimately, these are words that apparently composers may use to tell musicians what kind of tone they should convey. Personally, the fact that they added this into her design is just like beyond insane, and even though I didn't really know much about it, I genuinely have like immediately grown to adore it. I knew that her Eidolons were in Italian and I knew a little bit of what could possibly mean, but I didn't really know it was like that related to music or like intonations to be sure. So it was really neat to educate myself on that. Also, as mentioned before, she also has her idol animation where she appears to be playing the violin, right? And the fact that they added that animation for her character is absolutely perfect. Like, not only does it make her look incredibly elegant and glamorous in in general, but also it fits so well for her very first appearance with all the chaos and the classical music. But on top of it all, when we look at her YouTube trailers, both YouTube trailers, her character trailer and her Myriad Celestia trailer, I'm saying that word too much, so I'm gonna stop. But essentially, on the character video, they use segments of Winter and Summer by Antonio Vivaldi, while in the Myriad Celestia, they use Mozart's Lacrimosa. And I thought that was insane. I knew classical music, I don't usually know the names, so I'm glad that now I actually can associate them by name. Again, another really cool thing about these videos is that I get to educate myself with this little research. And once again, these songs are both absolutely elegant, but also convey so much power that just perfectly fits Kafka as a whole. However, we're not done with Kafka's musical perfection, and the reason is because we still have to talk about her own boss fight music. Yeah, some of y'all probably forgot that she has her own boss OST, because we only get to listen to it once, as far as I'm aware, and it is throughout the main story, when we fight her in the Shanzhou Laofu. Her song is called Hunter's Intuition, and personally, I just adore how well it combines sounds from both the Shanzhou Laofu, but it also ends up coupling this with some electro music effects. These kind of sound like those that we hear at Herta's space station. And the reason why I like this combination is that not only does it feel familiar, because these have been two areas that we've explored a lot, mainly the space station at the very beginning of the game, but the space station is also where we meet Kafka and Slurul. Nonetheless, it still carries around that mysterious energy, that ominous feeling that you don't know too much about it. The space is vast, it isn't explored, it is expansive. So you might know Kafka at a surface level, but you do not know in depth who she really is. And that, in my opinion, is what just makes that song fit her so well. Alright, also, quick little bracket here before we move on to the next segment. I forgot to add this, because apparently I deleted it from the script at some point, but they do use an instrument from China called a baiban, or also known as clappers. I'm not entirely sure, I'm pretty sure I butchered the name, so just in case, I'm writing it in the middle of the screen so everybody can see. But no, essentially, I do like the fact that these instruments are being incorporated, and just, again, now that I know this, it just makes the music feel that much more amazing in design, and just, I'm a sucker for it, okay? Let me be. The last element that I wanted to explore regarding Kafka is the fact that she has a lot of bug-like aesthetics that fit her design so freaking well. Mainly spiders. Once again, this is more than anything regarding a specific scene, the one where she enters for the first time to the Astral Express as a hologram and invites us the Shanzhou Laofu. In this first appearance, one of the things that she does is she goes towards, I believe, a desk or some sort of furniture, and there's a zoom into her hand where she essentially starts walking it through the surface, resembling the movements of a spider as she taps her fingers all the way through, and the camera focuses specifically on her hand. The one thing that personally made me adore all this is also the fact that her name is inspired on Franz Kafka, the writer of a novel called Metamorphosis, in which the protagonist transforms into a literal bug, which leads us to our next topic, which is these bug designs, where she actually starts to look like a spider. The spider motif can be seen all throughout her outfit, but one of the main ones that definitely stands out a lot is the fact that her back has essentially these spider web designs which cover a lot, and more importantly, the fact that her coat is essentially hanging from her body. She doesn't have her arms going through the sleeves. The sleeves are just dangling around, kind of replicating a set of extra limbs that would make her look more like a spider from far away. There's also the fact that the design on his back is very prominent and very menacing, something that spiders, if I recall correctly, do to scare predators away. And the more important one that I want to cover is how her eyes and sunglasses combo so well together to give this spider-like eyes towards everything. And I know that I couldn't really word it properly. I'm having struggle in kind of phrasing it. But the main thing is that those eyes that she has that are very foggy, that you can essentially only see one color, and then the little white shine on her eye is very similar to how actual spider eyes are. And the sunglasses being round, big, on the very top, can resemble as a second set of eyes, which some spiders do have up to 4 eyes. Some have 8, others have 6. In this scenario, Kafka is representing with 4. And personally, the one thing that I feel further shows her as a sort of spider is just the fact that not only does she apply poison in DOT, but you could say it's a paralytic poison that stings and it's electrifying given the fact that she has lightning as her element. You could compare it to a sort of paralytic poison that leaves a major sting on opponents. And I just think that that is absolutely awesome. The last thing that I wish to add is the fact that she has a gray butterfly in her left side of her coat. This could be interpreted in many different ways, but the way that I've seen it is that she essentially is carrying us, her destiny, as she puts it in the story, in her truth, near her heart. She essentially has a gray butterfly that represents the main character. And the reason why I feel like this is just perfect is for 2 different reasons. One, because her coat can be essentially what resembles a spider web, which we are caught in, as we are slaves to destiny, according to what Elio's design. However, the way that I would also like to represent it is through the butterfly effect. We are the butterfly. We are the ones that, even through very minute and insignificant actions, can cause major consequences of the entire world. We can shape the future. We are not bound to fate. And that just circles back perfectly to Kafka's companion mission. It is one of the things that I genuinely adore, and it just makes me appreciate Kafka's design that much more. But yeah, I mean, that's everything except for one more thing that I'm going to mention in the conclusion that I could find about Kafka. But before we move to said conclusion, I wanted to make one quick little announcement, and it is that on February 24th, a Saturday, at 9 p.m. EST, I have been invited to co-host a Genshin trivia show with my friend Indie Saga. He is absolutely great, and if you genuinely adore the lore of Genshin, I would heavily suggest you'll go check out his channel. But yeah, we're gonna be essentially playing a Jeopardy-styled game on stream. The winner of this game show will be gaining further community. If I recall correctly, 4 Welkin Moon Passes as well as 1 for the winner. Not to mention that we as hosts are also planning on do a giveaway at the very end of it all. So if you guys are interested, definitely go check it out. I really would love to see you guys there, and I hope you all are having a wonderful, wonderful day. Again, thank you very much for listening to me ramble on about a character's design. And overall, genuinely, it's been very enjoyable to just go off on like all these like weird tangents, theories, assumptions. I know some of them might have been a stretch, I am not gonna lie, but it's been really cool just having these ideas brewing in my mind and now actually writing them down and showing them in words. And the one thing that I kind of noticed, and it's still like, you know, it was lingering in my mind until right now, is the fact that doesn't it seem like the Garden of Recollection and the Stellar Hunters feel like they're complete opposites? Like, one of them focuses on everything related to the past. Like, they literally focus on restoring memories of things that have been destroyed by the destruction, whilst the Stellar Hunters don't really care much about what's happened in the past. All they really care is about the future. All they care is about moving forward, because no matter what you do, this is always what's gonna happen. Like, your fate is predetermined. I don't know, I just feel like it's like an interesting clash of ideas. I'm not sure if the Garden of Recollection tries to predict the future based on what's happened in the past, but I wouldn't put it against them, since I believe at least that they try to keep certain places safe now that they have like knowledge of how the destruction works. So yeah, I don't know, it's just been really cool. And again, I just personally feel that Kafka is such a design rich character. The flavor design that they incorporated into her was way more expansive than I actually initially expected, but it's been so wonderful. And yeah, with that being said, I hope you all are having an amazing rest of your days, nights, morning, whatever time zone you're in, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.